Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Relationships. How important do you think it is for a baby to have the same last name as the paternal grandmother in order for her to create a bond with them? Well, this one's from user Babe Miller. Am I the a-hole for calling mother-in-law by her last name instead of grandma? My relation to my mother-in-law, Mrs. Smith, is crap. She's cold to me because I kept my last name, Miller. She says I'll treat her like family when she wants to be a part of it. She calls me Jake's friend. My husband, Jake, loves me all the same. He doesn't bother standing up to her because it's a way for her to start a fight. We rarely talk to her. She makes no effort, neither do we. Jake and I discussed whose last name our kid would have prior to the birth. He initiated the conversation. I'd left the decision up to him. After the birth, the families visited at the hospital. Jake asked what our son's last name was gonna be. I told him it was still his choice. He smiled and said, "Little baby Miller. I like it." He filled out the paperwork. Mother-in-law looked livid. She started asking questions, but my dad started crying. Both of my brothers have died. Dad has never mentioned it, but I know passing the last name down makes him happy. Neither Jake or I anticipated this, nor did it for this reason, but it was sweet all the same. After she left, mother-in-law let people know what I had done, and how now she wouldn't feel like a grandmother. A month later, a sister-in-law announced her pregnancy. Mother-in-law said, "Finally, I'll feel like a grandmother." Again, my husband didn't say anything, neither did I. Our son started talking. During a video call where my mother-in-law did nothing but gush about sister-in-law's daughter, who is adorable, Jake was trying to get the baby to talk. Son lost interest. I took son and Jake let mother-in-law ramble some more before ending the call. Mother-in-law said she wanted to say bye to son. Jake turned the phone. Mother-in-law said, "Say bye to grandma. Make son say it. I'm grandma now." I snapped inside, so I said, "Say bye to Mrs. Smith." Mother-in-law's face dropped. Jake turned the camera away and said bye quickly. He laughed and said I was awesome, but we better put our phones on silent. The only call and text I responded to was the other sister-in-law who said I didn't need to go out of my way to be nasty. That mother-in-law went around saying how excited she was about son. Lie. That her initial comments were understandable because I talked Jake out of a tradition. I did not. And that I'd hurt mother-in-law. Mother-in-law needed time to adjust. I said, "Thank you for your input." Mother-in-law texted eventually saying I'd really upset her. I said, "Here I was trying to respect the importance you feel to last names. You've said multiple times I'm not family because of my last name. You made it more than clear that's the reason my child doesn't make you feel like a grandma. Now you'll be known as Mrs. Smith." She said sorry, she didn't mean it that way, but that my dad's reaction was an example of how important last names are. I now had to forgive her because we're family. It made me angrier that she brought my dad into this, and I can't tell if I'm being the a-hole or not. Well, OP, the community said you're not an a-hole, and I agree. But before I tell you what I think, how about we read a couple community comments and then we'll continue. Whatever 8 says, "Your husband is right, that was awesome. F that noise. Not the a-hole, stick to your guns on this. When you played stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and she is the Showcase Showdown champion now." Too Tall to Function says, "Not the a-hole. If she needs her son's biological son to have the same name as her to feel a connection or commitment to him, then she's not a good person. She's superficial and vapid. She doesn't get to shun you and treat you and your son like strangers for however long, and then turn around and demand empathy or an apology from you." OP's edit. Jake is home and I had him read the post. Some of you cracked him up, some made good points which we have discussed. Apparently, he also got a text from his sister and asked how much money she got from mother-in-law for telling me off. He also made sure to tell sister-in-law who had the baby that we hold nothing against her, should mother-in-law try to spin it that way. She knows mother-in-law better, thankfully. Jake would also like to tell those who are telling me I should take his name that he disagrees and he's not about the sexism you're spewing. Though he does know what to send mother-in-law, a Christmas card from the Millers. Just to clarify, my son will not be calling mother-in-law Mrs. Smith. They barely have a relationship as he's still a baby and mother-in-law makes no effort. After some discussion, Jake is gonna take time to figure out what he wants from mother-in-law and if he thinks that's possible. I gotta say, OP, what you did is really funny, and especially that say goodbye to Mrs. Smith thing, that was a very hypothetical smack in the face for her, right? Like that one commenter said, you don't need to have the same last name to have a connection. By that logic, no maternal grandmother in a culture where women don't take the last name is gonna feel a connection to her grandchildren. That's stupid. What do you guys think about the mother-in-law? Well, it's time to move on with the update to get some closure. Jake and I appreciated all the support, though Jake wants the DMers to know that he's okay with me taking his balls because he loses everything anyway. This brought him a good chuckle before the serious talk. We both also want to be very clear that taking his name was never on the table, nor does he care. I also do want to say I know how great Jake is. Though since the post he's been demanding I thank the world's best husband anytime he does something for me. His humor is my favorite part of him. Because it's his mom, I let him decide how to handle it. We both did agree that our son would obviously know mother-in-law as his grandma, but he wouldn't have a relationship with her unless she addressed the blatant favoritism. That conversation did not go well. She denied having favorites, lied about pretty much everything, then told me the compromise she was willing to make was that if she had to accept me for who I am, being that I kept my name, I'd have to accept her for who she is. I didn't respond before Jake ripped into her about how she didn't get to make demands. That she was critical of me, assumed things that he already told her weren't true. That this conversation was happening because we didn't accept who she was. He said if he ever heard her make another comment about the Miller last name, he'd take it. She started crying about losing her family and he hung up. One sister-in-law, who is mother-in-law's favorite child, sent me a nasty message including the line, "I wonder if your dead brother would be happy you used him to break mother-in-law's heart." I sent the screenshot to mother-in-law and said, "Call off your dog or I'll take her to the pound." I have sent a screenshot of that to anyone who has tried to question me. If they try to defend mother-in-law or sister-in-law, I blocked them. Word got around quickly about this, and now sister-in-law is all but cut out of father-in-law's side of the family. Even father-in-law has come down on her hard. Sister-in-law is desperately trying to apologize and fix this. She even allowed Jake to read everything mother-in-law sent to her about my last name. I tried to read some of it, but I stopped. I don't want to be angry, I'm taking time to decide how to handle this. I am happy to be done with mother-in-law. She never really bothered me. It does take a lot to get to me, but I don't want her behavior and attitudes being normalized with my son. I wasn't prepared for motherhood to have such a strong effect. Jake did admit he gave son my last name for my dad. Years ago, my dad asked if Jake was gonna propose to me. Jake said if my dad wanted to know, he would give him a heads up, but he wouldn't ask for his blessing or permission. In many more words, Dad said he never had any expectations of that. He didn't worry about gender roles, though he was glad he would gain a son again. Jake didn't feel obligated, he just wanted to do that for my dad. Sincerely, thank you all. OP's edit. I did not expect to wake up to the amount of messages I did. I appreciate them all. Jake takes both the compliments and the insults, as do I. I also want to clear up some questions. 1. Yes, this is real, but I'm not going to prove that. 2. Mother-in-law took father-in-law's name. They are divorced. They have 2 daughters and 2 sons. Brother-in-law intends to have children and will pass the Smith name. Sister-in-law has a daughter who has sister-in-law's husband's name. Sister-in-law also took his name. The youngest sister-in-law is the one who sent the text. 3. I am not going to apologize for how I spoke to mother-in-law after she encouraged her daughter to use my brother like that. There is text proof that mother-in-law did this. Sister-in-law showed Jake. I have no intentions on seeking therapy or a relationship with either of them, and that's the most that can be asked of me in this upset of a state. 4. If and when we have a second child, I always intended for them to get Jake's last name. Jake knows and is cool with it. 5. Jake is willing to be called by my last name, but I doubt he'll actually change it. Neither of us are willing to do the paperwork out of spite either. 6. Yes, I still cry remembering my dad cry about this. I always assumed Jake did this for this reason. He really is a great man. Well, OP, you're right. Your mother-in-law's toxic. Best thing you can do is cut her out of your life. And also, that little minion she has for a daughter. Out. And yeah, your husband sounds like a really cool guy. So congratulations on that. The best for the both of you. Okay, now let's move on to the next story. When a mother or mother-in-law makes conflict out of nothing, do you think they should be considered for babysitting? This one's from user Baby Drama Throwaway. My 31 male in-laws, 57 female, 62 male have gone no contact with us because my wife, 28 female, and I decided to go with a daycare center instead of them for a baby that isn't even born yet. I've been with my wife for over 9 years, but married for 5. My in-laws have been married for about 11 years. Father-in-law is my wife's stepfather. Some backstory. My in-laws loved me while my wife Lara and I were dating. They both eagerly said yes when I asked for Lara's hand in marriage. Something changed a few years ago. My mother-in-law is generally an emotionally unstable person, but it got worse once we got married. My mother-in-law would pick fights with Lara about me over crazy things. For example, my brother-in-law was kicked out at our wedding reception by security because he got drunk and acted belligerent. My mother-in-law was angry that I didn't stop it, even though I wasn't near that at the time. Mother-in-law didn't talk to Lara or I for over 2 months until father-in-law told her to move on. The fights have been frequent, at least 2 a year since, and always have the same cycle as the fight mentioned above. Mother-in-law picks a dumb fight, refuses to talk to Lara for 1 to 3 months, and then reconciles. A major fight broke out between us in September 2016 after my mother-in-law attacked me on social media. She called me ignorant and preachy when I put out a Facebook post asking people to be respectful to each other during the election. I guess she didn't see the irony. This fight also turned nasty when she was attacking Lara via text and said to her, "You're never going to have children." We lost a pregnancy earlier that summer. This was especially painful because we had just found out that week that we were 6 weeks pregnant. My point, she can be very cold. The fight lasted several months, with the father-in-law eventually pushing the mother-in-law to reconcile 2 days before Thanksgiving. He really wanted us to be able to celebrate the pregnancy with them after all those months. It was a BS apology where she, like always, apologized to Lara and half apologized to me. Sorry for a miscommunication. Things have been steady now, but not by much. Lara insists that her mom can't lash out anymore and has been mostly better since then, but it's only been 6 months. We were visiting my in-laws when the subject of childcare was brought up. We had previously said that we were glad we found an awesome person for our childcare. Neither my father-in-law or mother-in-law said much beyond acknowledging it. But a few days later, the mother-in-law sort of flipped out. She kept saying, "I just assumed you wanted me to watch the baby." To which we said that we had already told them months ago that we found someone. Both said they didn't remember, which is a typical excuse for them. We assured them that they'll be able to babysit and have alone time with the child, but mother-in-law still seemed upset. So a couple of days passed and we figured it was blowing over when my father-in-law messaged my wife telling her how extremely disappointed they are in our choice of childcare and that no matter who we got, no one is more prepared than your mother to watch the baby. This actually isn't true. They only own one car, a two-seater, and we said to them that it's important to us that whoever watches the baby, that they have a car with a car seat in it for emergencies. Our main reason though, which we didn't tell them, is that we can't have a daycare person who constantly gets into fights with us out of the blue. We would have nowhere to take our child and we both work full time. So Lara responded to father-in-law with this message. Thanks for letting me know your thoughts. I appreciate hearing what you have to say. I know we did talk a long time ago about my mom watching my future baby. But after discussing it, we decided against this for a couple of reasons. We did bring up our decision when we told you the first time, although it may have been forgotten. I am sorry that this is upsetting you. I wish this would have been discussed earlier on. I don't want anyone upset this close to when the baby is due to arrive. I can understand why you are upset, but this is our decision and we hope everyone can respect it and move on. I am hoping that everyone is able to move on from this and focus on the joy of having a new baby in the family. I am very excited about this baby and I want this to be a celebration for everyone. Father-in-law responded with, "Then I guess we're done here." And after Lara asked what that meant, he said, "You made your decision. You don't appreciate that your mother and I worked hard to put you through private high school and that I am paying a $50,000 student loan. So you got what you want and we'll just leave it at that. I'll get over it just fine, but your mother will probably have a harder time. Hope the baby is healthy and fine." And that's it. Now, I should say that he has a tendency to expect Lara to act exactly as he wants. For instance, when Lara and I were dating for 1 year while I was in the army, she told them she was going to fly out to see me during a college break, to which he forbade her to fly on a plane, and when she still did it, he cut off her phone service as a punishment. I'm sorry for rambling, I'm just not sure what to do here. My wife is devastated, but not entirely caught off guard. Our baby is due in 8 days, and she can't wrap her mind around how her family won't be there. So my question is, what can I do to help? Should I say anything to the in-laws? I usually say nothing and let my wife and the in-laws hash it out, but I'm tired of being silent. My mother-in-law said nothing during all this exchange yesterday, and she's been so excited for the baby that I can't imagine she's okay with this. What can I do to help my wife? She's the sweetest, most kind person I know, and I can't stand seeing her so upset, especially when she's so close to giving birth. Wow, OP, your in-laws sound incredibly manipulative. What's with your wife's stepdad sending that message like, "Oh, you got what you wanted from us, we paid for your education and now you're taking the baby away"? What the F, man? And really, just stirring up drama for the sake of drama? That's wasted energy that nobody needs. The good thing is, you don't have to be the one to establish no contact. They've done that by themselves. I would keep it that way. And also, if you have the money, even though 50K is a lot of money, I would just give it back to them and say, "Here's your stupid 50K, you can't hang this over our heads anymore, now shove it up your..." Okay, I'm done. No more ranting from me. So before I ask you guys what do you think, let's go through an edit and then a quick update from OP. Edit. Just to clarify my wife's thinking, Lara is pretty fed up with everything. She says she's done playing their games and plans to not contact them in the future unless they reach out and flat out apologize for their behavior. Quick update. First, thank you to all the people who gave such supportive advice. We really appreciate it. Also, my mother-in-law decided to break the no contact already this morning, East Coast time. She texted my wife only to tell her that she thinks she figured out the name of the baby. We were keeping it a secret, but gave everyone in our family the first letter at Easter, and threatened to blast it all over Facebook just to be cruel. I think it's unlikely to be true. Lara and I both agree mother-in-law's just trying to upset her. But I think it cemented the fact that we have to go no contact with them until well after the baby is due. Thank you again. Okay, so now I can ask you guys, what do you think about this whole situation? Now, one disclaimer before I end the video. There is one more update to this story from OP, but unfortunately I can't share it with you guys because it's in a sub that really doesn't like their posts to be on YouTube and get in fights with YouTubers, and I don't want to get a strike. However, if you guys want to read that, all you need to do is just search for the username that I give in the beginning of the story and you'll find the post. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.